Right, good morning, welcome back to the channel. What a load of ball, episode 52. We're going to be working on the Lexus again today, and what I'm planning to do is the wheel bearing. So when I got the car, I've been very high mileage, missed some Lexus service history. I actually paid for a full shebang service at Lexus, and I hadn't noticed it before, but they flagged that this wheel bearing was on its way out. I've since noticed it. You can hear it, and it kind of changes pitch when you turn. They wanted £950 to change it, which I thought was extortionate. So I'm going to do it myself. Now, two ways that you could do this. You could buy the bearing, press out the flange, reassemble it and everything. Bearings are about £20 to £40. Or you can buy the hub assembly and just fit that and be done with it. So I took this option. This was £140. It's a blueprint pattern part. I'll put a link. I got it on eBay. I'll put a link in the description. I have got a press, but it's broken, and I have got a press at work, but I need to do it all in one hit. So my rationale was, I spend out on this one, then I've got this one which I can push a fresh bearing into. Then when the near side one goes, I've got one ready to put in. I'm going to cover this step by step as much as possible. I realised that I'm doing some Lexus content, so I might have completely new audience. So I'm going to go through everything as thoroughly as I can. Very first thing I want to do before I lift the car is to crack the wheel nuts. I have got a fancy wheel brace somewhere, an extendy one, but I can't find it, so I'm going to do it with a ratchet in the socket and a bar if I need to. The jacking point is, there's a little arrow here which shows you. Now mine's already pretty mullered in there. I've noticed that when I was fitting the wheels. I'm a big fan of these rubbers, so I've got a whole load of these, but 4 of them are at work at the moment, so I've only got the one here that I can find right now. What I'm going to do is I'll use a jack on the jacking point where it's mullered, and then I'm just going to put it on an axle stand a bit further back on the sill on this. I don't need to lift up the other corner, but if the rear is hanging or it looks a bit sketchy, then I will, but I should be able to get away with just lifting up the front, lift this corner. So I am going to do that. I'll show you how I've got the jack in a sec, but first of all I'm going to crack the wheel nuts. I like to use a bar sometimes. When it comes to undoing them, really you want to be able to undo them by the side of the road. I torqued these up to 110 newtons when I fitted the wheels the other day. You don't want to get stuck, but it's always okay, in my opinion, to use an extra lever bar to undo them if you need to, but you should never use extra force like that to do them up, because then you run the risk of over tightening it. You might stretch the stud, break it, or make it too tight, and then when you're stuck on the side of the road you can't undo it. So that's just the way that I run. So I'll report back in a sec. Okay, so I ended up using the rubber block on the jack to help with the lift. It did just clear, but it was pretty close to the plastic. And then I've put the axle stands there on the swing arm, because that's a nice solid mounting part there. I'm not going to lift up any other wheels, so I'm going to keep the jack here just as another point of lift, because obviously the whole wheel's going to come off in a bit and we want maximum safety. Also worth thinking about if you're using tripod axle stands where you're putting your feet. I feel like the load is going to be wanting to tip this way, so I made sure I've got a foot there. And now we're going to go this wheel, although it looks quite high up, this wheel is still on the ground. I'm going to go and put a chock on either side of the far left wheel there, that you can see, just so that we additional protection from rolling. It is in gear, it does have the handbrake on, but just to be on the safe side, I'll put some little wedge blocks in there. Okay, so I've chocked that wheel, giving it a good shake, it ain't going nowhere. So now I'm going to take off the wheel. After I've taken off the wheel, I'm going to be real careful with it on the ground, but then I'm going to put it under the car just as a bit of added protection. Again, if it drops, it's going to fall on the wheel, not hit the floor. To take the wheel off, I am going to use my tired jigger. This thing is past its best, but it does speed up the process of undoing bolts. It's no good as an actual impact to try and break things through, but it does speed the process off of getting things off. Okay, so we're in now. For the record, I've never done this on this car before. I am making it up as I go along, but I have changed plenty of wheel bearings on other vehicles over the years, so it should be fairly straightforward and well within our reach. So I got the wheel in there, just looking for kind of the simplest way to take it all apart. What can we get away with taking off? I think we need to take off the whole caliper, and that looks to be, and sorry if you can't quite see, but we've got one there and one there. These are probably 19s or 17s. Once I've worked that out, I will confirm in a minute. And then, oh no, sorry, it's this one and this one for the caliper. Okay, and then eventually we will be taking off this one and this one, or these two, to do the hub. So hopefully you've been able to see that in frame, because I can't see. I just turn the camera around. But I'll probably adjust the steering a little bit, just so we've got a bit better access from over here. Get the caliper around here, and if we need a bar to undo anything, we've got a little bit more leverage room for leverage. Okay, so they were 17s. I've cracked them. I'm just about to undo them with the impact gun. Before you take off a caliper, it's always a good idea to have something ready to tie it up with. So I just got a little tie wrap here. I'm going to hoik it up there just so that we're not dangling on the rubber hose, because that's not a good idea. Okay, caliper's tied up and out of the way. I normally use a zip tie, but I found that before I found the zip tie, so that's what I'm using. Now I need to take off the disc. Sometimes there's a little retaining screw. Doesn't look like there is on these, but these do have a thread, and I think that's so if it is tricky to get off, you can put in a bolt to kind of push it off of here. I'm just going to give it a bit of a tap and a wiggle, and I think it should come off okay, but if not, we do have that option there. Yeah, it was pretty firm. I just gave it a couple of taps. Some percussive persuasion, as one of my students said the other day, to get that off. That's now good. And then I'm going to place the disc over there on the cardboard so it's nice out the way and safe, and then we'll start having a play with the 4 bolts for the hub assembly. Okay, sorry, the lighting's not worked great here, but we've got this bolt, and then 2 on the other side. We've also got this wheel speed sensor connected to unplug. Just checked, and the new hub assembly comes with a new sensor, which is great news, because sometimes getting those sensors out is quite tricky. They get quite far in there, and then you end up ruining the sensor. So I'm going to disconnect this and then start on these ones. I'll just check, and these are probably a 17 as well. So yes, that's nice and convenient. You only need 17s to get that all apart. I think on the Stager it's a combination of 17s and 19s, and I think it was on the Subaru as well. Let's see what that is. Ah, and that's a 17 as well. Look at that. Toyota engineering, eh? Lexus engineering. Right, I'll get that undone. If I have to do anything clever, I'll explain how I've done that. I can't quite see the retaining clip at the moment, but we'll work that out. Diff. Should be done in no time. Okay, that was a little fiddly. Clip is underneath. I think mine was all quite dirty, so the lever mechanism inside wasn't working, but I think you want to put something in this gap here to try and make that go to undo that clip. I used a punch in there, and then that freed it up. But just be careful, you don't want to break this connector, because you want this to go back onto the new one. And these are very, very important for the grand scheme of electronics which is going on in the car. So I've already cracked these ones. Now I'm going to do these. I'll see if I can reach it in this position. If not, I might turn the steering wheel around just so I've got better access from the other side. But yeah, it looks fairly straightforward. Oh, and just for proof of the pudding, that's what the bad wheel bearing sounds like. So yeah, no real play in there, but that's definitely shot, and you can't really repair that kind of sealed bearing. You could replace it, like I said, but yeah, pick your battles. Okay, I've got all 4 bolts out now. I put them separate to the caliper ones because they are different lengths and different shoulders. This one is a bit stuck in there, that's fine. If I turn the wheel, I've been moving the wheel back and forth quite a bit. If I turn that, I'll be able to get to that. In theory, this is now ready to come off, so I'm just going to give it a little whack and get a pry bar in there somewhere, and that should come out. It's probably, there is a bit of a collar which sits in there, so need to get a bit of a shock in there, and there's probably a particular lever point or something somewhere. So once I fathom that, I'll report back. Okay, I thought that was all going a bit too easy. That's very much in there. So I put the bolts back in and I gave them a bit of a tap from the back, thinking that help might free it up, but it's still very much in there. So I'm going to have a look for some penetrating spray and give it a bit of a clean around the groove to try and get in there a little bit. There is quite a bit of metal which is sitting inside there, so it's very likely that that's going to be a pain to get out. So yeah, I'm going to do that, then have a little break, make a coffee, come back and think about it. I don't really want to damage the dust cover, but I might have to. And I'll probably do all the tapping from underneath just so we can't see that. But it should come out. If not, what we might have to do is take off the banana arm, undo the drop link underneath, ball joint at the bottom, and then hope that the press has got enough in it to do that. Maybe we just have to do that, but I do really need to do it today or reassemble it, because this is the only car I've got here and I need to get to work tomorrow. Right, a little bit stumped. I think I'm going to have to take this whole bit off and then put it on the press and try and push it out, because I'm hitting it with chisels and stuff. This is really high mileage. It's 205,000 miles, so it is quite well in there. It is a 2013 as well, so it is one of the older ones of these. It might be that there's videos out there where people are doing it, but I'm doing everything that I would think to do that. Been tapping it around just to try and free it up. I've been whacking the whole thing as well and tapping the bolts from behind, and it's just not coming. So by the looks of it, we've got a safety pin style up here. Got a pin, ooh, like a fancy one, bougie. So I'm going to undo that, split that. I have got a splitter if I need it, but I'll probably just do that via whacking, because then I hopefully won't break that boot there, and then I'll get to do the one underneath as well. So once I've done that, I'll show you what tools I needed to do that. Okay, so again, that was a 17mm socket to get that one off. I'm just going to hit this really hard a couple of times, and that shock should take out the joint. Okay. If that doesn't work, I have got a splitter, but this is my preferred way to do it. If this doesn't work, I'll show you how I did it in a sec. 3 taps and it kind of popped out. There is a bit of preload on that, it seems, so when it comes to reassembling, I'll probably have to use the jack to get underneath to lift it up, but that did work as I wanted it to. So now I've got a little bit more room and I can get into this one here, which also looks like it's a 17. And then this whole, I call it a banana arm, it's a bit more like that on the stage here, but yeah, take that all off, and then at least I can put it on the press and get to it from behind, or put it on a bench and hit it like that, because I think that's going to be the best way to get it, rather than trying to get in any of these edges, because that just ain't working. So just done the tie rod as well, because that's all part of this assembly. So a couple whacks here, and then that should pop off, and then the other one down there, that one is a 19. Everything else so far has been a 17, but that feels like it's a 19. I'll confirm that in a minute when I get there. So the tie rod, I did have to use the ball joint split on that one. Managed to do that quite nicely without damaging that though, so that's good. So it's 19 on this one. I will try it with the impact. If not, I'll just crack it and then use that to speed it up, and then hopefully a couple of whacks on there. If not, we'll use the splitter again. It should fit into that one. Then we can take this off and put it on a bench and rethink how we're going to get this stupid bearing out. Right, my tired impact wouldn't undo that as predicted, but a bar did. So now I'll use the jigger just to speed off that nut, give it some wax, hopefully it'll come out. After I got it out, I'll let you know how I did it. Okay, that came out pretty good. Now I've just spotted there are these underneath, so I could have taken those off, and which would have kept these two tied in together still, but I didn't see that from before. Sorry, these two. So that's that. So now I can give this a really good clean, hopefully get a socket behind that, and then push it out somehow. I have got a press, so yeah, hopefully that it's got enough left in it. I did think I broke it last year, but we should be okay. Well, it's quite nice, just little features that I'm picking up as we go. Everything's a different nut, so when you put it all back together, they all have their own place. You're not left with a pile of nuts. So that was the big one for the bottom, that one was for the top, and then this one was for the tie rod. There's my cat, one of my cats, Shaq. Well, he doesn't normally go in there, so he's having a good old root about. Cool. Right, let's clean this up and move it somewhere else and have a go at pushing that out. Okay, we're now in the kitchen workshop. I promise you the press doesn't normally live in here, but this is a better space to film. This is my initial setup. What we're trying to do is to support this section, as near to the middle as possible, whilst giving room underneath for this hub assembly to come out. I've got a selection of bits of metal and old bearings. I think that came out of the stage here. That fits quite nicely on and around there. And I'm just going to give this a try. Last time I used this, the press wasn't happy, but it has been a little while, so maybe it will have calmed down a little bit. Otherwise I'm going to be a little bit stuck. I might have to reassemble it, which wouldn't be good. So I'm going to try. Alright, Shaq, you come to help. Cat's here now. So yeah, I'll try this, and if it works, it works. These do look a bit sketchy, so I might put some tape or something around that to try and make it a bit more sturdy, but really once it's loaded up it tends to get quite sturdy there. Right, bud? Good. Okay, I'm on stacking attempt 2.5. I'm going for 2 solid bits rather than 4. I think I can hold it a little bit better. Does look a little bit wonky, but I think it's alright. I'm going to keep going. And I have got a bar here because I want to be a little bit further away. Usually when you're doing this type of thing, it will snap and it will suddenly pop. Hopefully the whole thing won't snap in like that, but it will kind of pop out. I have had it where parts have flown back. I used to have this mounted on a bench, where it was kind of eye and chest height, and I did have something come back and hit me in the chest, and it really winded me, so I'm a bit wary of that. So I've got this bar and stood a little bit further back. I'll try this, hopefully it'll work. Right, this is proving to be quite a mission. I've got it kind of mounted on 3 now, and that's the best I can do it. Blowtorch. So just gonna have a little break, gather my thoughts, but I think if I put a bit of heat in kind of here, and then have a go at pressing it. This is cast or some form of aluminium, whereas the bearing will be steel. So that's part of the problem. It's 2 dissimilar metals are bound up together. Run out of penetrating spray and stuff like that. A lot of my stuff is all at work because I took it there when we were to do with the manual swap. So I'm running on limited consumables here at the moment. I do really need to do it because that's totally seized now. For whatever we're doing, we are loading it up somehow, but unfortunately it's not coming out just yet. So I'm going to leave it kind of under tension. I'm going to come back in a minute, give it some heat, and then press it again. So I'm just putting a little bit of heat in and around here, trying to get it into that groove. Really, I want the aluminium to heat up and expand and kind of snap that little gap between it and the steel hub. So I'm not trying to get it red hot. I just want to get some heat in here to get it to free up a little bit. Fuck yeah. So that took a little bit of jiggery pokery. Quite a lot of fire in the end. And as predicted, that did just kind of all snap and it all popped out. So I'm so pleased. We're just about to hit 12 o'clock. So yeah, I didn't want this to take all day. So I'm going to let this cool down a little bit. Well, I'm going to take off the main bit that I need. Let that cool down a bit before I try and get the new bit in. Yeah, that's such a relief. Because yeah, I really didn't want to have to do that or be without the car. So yeah, reassembly should be a lot easier. I might need to press it in, might not. I will quickly go and grab the new bearing actually and put that in the freezer for a little bit just to help cool that down, because again, if we cool it down it will shrink, to make it a bit easier to get in. But yeah, excellent. And the old faithful press is working, which is good, because I thought that it was foobar after doing some ball joints bushes last year for someone. So result, really pleased. Okay, I decided to carry on actually while this is still warm, because it is still very warm. I'm just going to clean up the inside here with a flap disc, because it is quite nasty. Once that's clean, then I'll put a bit of copperies or whatever that is, but it's some sort of copper. That helps to put in a barrier between the steel bearing and the aluminium casing. So yeah, ball joint's cool, so that's fine. So yeah, I'm just going to clean that up. I've put the new bearing in the freezer just to hopefully we can get that to shrink down a bit. But I thought while it's still warm, I'll try and do that. Okay, so cleaning that up quite a lot. Got a little bit carried away around the outsides, but I did want it to look a bit nicer. I'm not going to deep clean everything on it today because that's not what I'm here for, but because I'm in this area I have given it a clean. Tried to get out all the as much of the brown crappy crust as possible. There's still quite a lot of this white stuff. I'm being a little bit cautious because if that's aluminium which is degraded, I don't want to take out too much of that and then end up with not enough aluminium left there. So I'm happy with how it is at the moment. It might not look perfect, but I'm happy with it. So now what I'm going to do is put in a load of copper slip kind of in here, so that when the new bearing comes in there is a dissimilar metal in between it, so that it's got a barrier, because otherwise aluminium and steel naturally wants to fuse together. We put a bit of this stuff in here. I even put a little bit on the face here as well, because obviously the bearing mounts onto this face. It's still feeling quite warm from when we heated it up, so I'm hoping that it will go in quite nicely. I've got the jugger here, so I think we'll just kind of plonk it in and hope that we can do it with the bolts and not have to worry about pressing it, because I don't want to have to rig that up again. So yeah, that's the plan. Let's see how it goes, whilst obviously not forgetting to put the dust shield on as well. So yeah, I put a bit on here. Did gnarl it up a little bit from pressing it out, but I'm not too worried about that. We never see it anyway. So yeah, I'll get the bearing out the freezer and hopefully that will just slot in nicely. Oosh, and we are back in. That went in surprisingly easily actually, so hopefully I haven't taken out too much aluminium. But yeah, all jigger down. I know that this job he only does to about 80 newtons, so I have sent it with that. Once it's all on there and I've got the torque wrench out, I'll torque everything down to spec and I'll let you know what they are. Time to reassemble. So we'll do it in the reverse order. We'll get this one in, then we'll need to get the jack involved to hoik it up to get the top one in. But yeah, we're on the home straight now. It's 12:15, we're doing good. So yeah, let's go and get it back together. Okay, so back outside, had a good thought, and really we should be putting some thread lock on these. So I'm going to take these out. I've done one now, putting medium strength blue stuff, and yeah, that way we know that they're not going to back out. I'll get the torque wrench and look that up in a minute, and I might actually do it in situ here because it's fairly easy to get to it, and it might be a bit easier than trying to do it in there. So I'll let you know what those specs are in just a sec. Okay, so best I can find, I think these are meant to be 103. I'm going to do it up to 105. Got my torque wrench set, newton meters, twisted up, got to 100, then up to 5. So I'll just waz those in and then we'll get it reconnected to the rest of it. Cool, all done. Quite impressed. I think that must have got in there at 100 because it was pretty tight. It didn't take much more. So I'm going to get it reassembled, and once it's all assembled then we'll torque everything at once. But for now it's just going to be a bit fiddly to talk as we go. It's better just to get it assembled and then do all those bits all at once, but we're definitely on the home straight. So got that one's in fine. This one's been a bit tricky. I'm going to move the jack now and get it underneath just to start giving a bit of preload to hopefully get the inner bit to bite onto this so we can get the nut down, because at the moment it's just spinning, but usually once you've got something underneath it pushing it into place it's a lot easier. And then we'll do the top one. We'll need the jack in there to do the top one anyway, but yep, all going okay, and got a nice quiet wheel bearing there as well, so that's all good. That worked really well. Worth noting that I've got the jack on the very bottom of this bit, not on this bit, because I was trying to force that up into there against the pressure of the suspension. So now that that's in, we can line up. I'll rearrange that a bit so I am lifting on there, so that we can get into there. In fact, I might do the torque of these while I've got a bit more access, so I'll look that up and let you know what that is. So that one's done now. I did that to 125. I'm going to do this one. That should be 54, so I might have over tightened that already, but we'll find out in a minute. Once I've got those done, I know I keep going back against what I'm saying, but it just made more sense while I got a bit more access to get the torque wrench in there. I did need to use an extension bar for that one, just to give me a bit more clearance. But yeah, 125, and about to check that to 54. Okay, so got the tie rod done, just about to torque up this one. That's 65. I've been going up a little bit on them just because I'm reusing them so I'm actually going to go to 70. This one should have been 54. I did it to 60. 65, I'll do it up to 70. There's no harm in going a little bit over when you're reusing things like this. Okay, so that's all back together. All the cotter pins and that are back in. Just going to put a very light bit of this copper grease on the face of the hub, just so again we've got a separation between the hub and the disc. Then it's a case of getting the caliper back on, and I know it has fallen down, but hey. I'll put a bit of Loctite in for the caliper bolts, and I'll also torque those up to spec. I'll probably have to turn the wheel to get a bit of better angle on that, but once I've done that I'll let you know the torque ratings. Cool, so calipers mounted. I did have to put that on there just to hold the disc in place because it took a bit of a wiggle, and I've just checked and those mounting bolts are 120 newtons, so I'm going to do that now, and then we can put the wheel back on. So almost there. Okay, that's all torqued up. Just be aware after you've taken the caliper off, your brakes might need a bit of pumping before you move anywhere, just to get that to settle back again. What I would have done if I was changing the pads is I'd actually have pried that back while it's in situ here, so the piston returns. It's a lot easier to do it here than with an actual caliper rerun tool, but I was putting the pads back on today, so that was fine. But just be aware you will have pushed the piston back a little bit by now, so it will need a couple of presses to reset that. So we're all looking good. I'm going to straighten the steering wheel up, get the wheel back on, get it back on the ground. Happy days. I'm also going to put a tiny bit of that copper stuff on the face of the disc as well, just here, just only on the inside, because it kind of squish out, and I don't want it anywhere near that. Before I put the wheel on, I will clean it with brake cleaner, but I don't need to show you that. Okay, wheels back on. I've done like one jugger on each of them, obviously in the crisscross pattern. I'm now going to lift it up and get it off the stand, so then we can get it on the ground and then torque it to spec, because at the moment it's just going to spin if I try and torque it. Right, jobs are good in. I did them up to 110, slightly over what it's meant to be, but that seems like a sensible number for them. That felt quite good as well. So that's going to be the end of this video. I think this was WALOB episode 52. If you're new to the channel, please give us a subscribe. There's going to be a lot more content like this coming. It will be a mixture of the Lexus stuff and obviously the Stadia stuff. Going to be back in the workshop in the evenings and lunch times and stuff next week to get that wrapped up. And when something crops up to do on the Lexus, I will do a video for it. So yeah, enjoy your days, and I'll catch you soon. And don't forget the speed sensor cable. I've just done that. Sorry, bad lighting, you can't really see it, but yeah, don't forget that one.